Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GioMoShow. My name is Giovanni Moceri. I am your host of your home for Golden Grizzlies action. It's been the entire summer, the entire offseason since I've been back here, and I want to lead off the show. If you guys aren't familiar, this is your home for Golden Grizzlies sports, specifically leaning into basketball. But I had some construction going on as far as the show is concerned. I want to lead off the show with a bit of reflection and information on that. So, long story short, the construction that was planned for this year's coverage of Golden Grizzlies basketball did not quite go through. You could say that we bought the materials, but just the permits weren't quite there from the county and the township to allow for construction. So thus, the project has been delayed until next season, to put it all into construction terms. But essentially for this season, it'll be much more of a similar taste to what you guys are used to as far as the GioMoShow is concerned. So we're running it back for this season as we take a look at our Golden Grizzlies. Now, right now it's the off season, and we're recording this in about mid-August, so we got a whole lot of preseason left to go. But for now, I wanted to kind of warm you guys up and kind of recap as far as last season, because I think it's important. Even though college sports nowadays, it doesn't quite have the same linear history as it usually does when it comes to, now with the transfer portal and movement of players and teams. It's not quite, you see the player go from walk-on to freshman all the way up to his senior year. There's a lot more movement, but I still think it's important to recap and set the stage for the season that is to be, and we'll do that with the Golden Grizzlies. So the biggest headline for last season for Oakland was how were they going to follow up 2024's historic success when it came to essentially sweeping all that you could in the Horizon League. Horizon League regular season champions, Horizon League tournament champions, and a round of 64 victory over Kentucky, and even an overtime against future Final Four NC State. So how did Oakland follow that up? Well, as that offseason went, there was essentially the disappearance of that year's starting five. That included Trey Townsend, who was the player of the year in the Horizon League, first team all Horizon League, Lou Henson Award winner, which for those unaware, it's pretty much the player of the year in mid-major. It's pretty much the highest honor you can get in this level of Division I basketball. And Trey Townsend was the winner of that. So he transferred to Arizona for his final year of collegiate eligibility. His running mate, Blake Lampman, second team All-Horizon League, one of the best three-point shooters in the Horizon League at that time. He graduated and is now, this season, I'm talking in the past, but now last season after graduation, a graduate assistant on Tom Izzo's staff in East Lansing for Michigan State. And then, of course, Jack Golke, which you could kind of argue starting lineup or not. He was sixth man of the year in the Horizon League, but still was, in the rotation enough to be, at least highlighted as such. He graduated and entered the NBA Summer League, into the G League, and now he is in Europe. So he's off the Golden Grizzlies squad as well. And I don't think I quite have to recap his story. Rocket Watts graduated as well, and Chris Conway, a last-minute transfer out of Oakland to Washington, leaving Campy with not a whole lot of time to fill his spot at the forward position for a front court that would eventually be one of the best in the Horizon League. More on that in just a little bit. So with all of these players leaving, all of this, the highest level of talent that Oakland had, they were, I hate to say it this way, they were left with Isaiah Jones, Baru Nivalarua, and DQ Cole as their core three from that last season to lead the way into this season. And DQ Cole had a whole lot of excitement and hype going into this season, as obviously he played a critical role in that 2024 run. He was preseason second team All-Horizon League, to put some evidence to it. That was released before the season, and it was expected that he would be the spearhead to the Oakland offense, and as well as a great leader on the team as a whole. Most of that did end up being true, but not quite in the way that we predicted. So to later fill out the roster, Oakland picked up some huge pieces, or a huge piece, that did create one of the strongest front courts in the Horizon League, and that was the addition of Alan Mukeba, who, for lack of a better phrase, was there to fill the shoes of Chris Conway, who, you think about it now, where, if you had Chris, who had the history with the team and the leadership, and, not that the team was lacking any of that, but you don't get players like Chris Conway all that often. Imagining that front court with him and Baru, but instead we got pretty much as good as you can get from Mukeba and Baru. He became one of the fiercest players in the Horizon League and was leading in all kinds of field goal percentages and rebounds and muscle mass in the Horizon League. He was a enormous pickup, the biggest piece, this biggest addition to the Golden Grizzlies roster that season. Some other key pieces did include Isaiah Jones's brother, Jalen Jones, out of Tennessee State to fill the point guard spot, and kind of as well as the Tone Hunter role of that 2024 team, where you kind of have him in rotation at the point guard spot, a whole lot of speed, a little bit untamed at times, but still a spark plug, an energizer bunny, if you will, for this Golden Grizzlies team. In addition, a freshman from Dearborn, Nassim Mashour, grew into a bigger role as the season went on from the guard spot. Originally, played into the point guard role, but later Campy moved him into a the shooting guard role. And to fill the shoes of Jack Golke, we basically got the Canadian version of him, and Malcolm Christie, who was, looking back at it, was one of the, by volume and by percentage, best three-point shooters in North America that season before arriving at Oakland. If Jack Golke, you could say, led the continent in three-pointer in many categories. Malcolm Christie was right with him. So he was a big addition for the Golden Grizzlies. Also a big, attraction when it came to leading up to that season as well. And finally, Jason Woodrich, the graduate student, the 4-year Cleveland State Viking, joined Campy's squad for one last run in the Horizon League. Unfortunately, didn't get to see as much playing time as we were hoping for, due to injury, and that led to, when he was playing, some issues with his performance and three-point shooting, a lot of the stuff that we were depending on him for. But he brought a much more diverse skill set in that to make up for that. But not to say that there weren't fireworks on the Jason Woodrich side. We'll cover that in just a little bit. So overall, Oakland was predicted to be the 4th seed in the Horizon League, hopefully able to maintain the home court advantage of the Horizon League tournament if predictions went correctly, behind Milwaukee and Purdue Fort Wayne, who were tied for votes in the number 1 spot, as well as Northern Kentucky, who sat right above them in the 3rd spot. So that kind of set the stage for that season for the Golden Grizzlies, the 24-25 season in Rochester, Michigan. And to kind of summarize the big highlights of the season, I want to kind of break this up into segments where we talk about some of the milestones and kind of the biggest storylines throughout the season, and then we'll kind of characterize a team by its strengths and weaknesses that kind of also set the stage for now how those strengths and weaknesses were either added to or subtracted from into now this 25-26 season coming up. That'll be on the next episode of the GioMoShow. But right now I want to set the stage with history. Then we'll look to the future in the next episode. So for the main milestones and kind of big storylines for the 24-25 season was there, I would say in the beginning, more into the preseason and non-conference schedule, it got pretty brutal once it got down to near Christmas, where Golden Grizzlies, they played 5 games in about a matter of 7 days. Where it was Tuesday, December 17th, they played at Little Caesars Arena against Michigan State. Last minute, or honestly, probably last second, subtraction of Baru from that lineup as he tweaked his back right before tip-off. And it was still close. It was still a fun game. I was able to call it on WXOU, like in Little Caesars Arena, which was awesome. And the game was within about 1 point. I think it was 31-30. Michigan State lead at halftime, and everyone was astonished as DQ Cole made 5 of 7 threes in that first half. And then regular patterns emerged where Michigan State continued to show why they're the Big Ten and Oakland is the Horizon League. And I'm not saying it to talk down. I mean, that's basketball. That's college basketball. That's kind of how the conferences go. There's just different levels to it. So the game didn't quite go the way that we wanted to. But that was Tuesday, December 17th. Right away, they would then head on to the bus down to Cleveland State, get there Wednesday morning, get one practice in, try to catch up on some sleep, and then Thursday night they would play at Cleveland State for their first Horizon League battle in the conference schedule. They would then, after that game, head straight back to Rochester and get on a plane over to Hawaii as they would go to play in the tournament of which I do not have the name of, the Diamondback Classic. I know it wasn't the Maui Invitational, the Diamondback Classic, Diamond Head Classic, I believe was the name of the Hawaii tournament that Oakland played a part of. That one where they were able to get onto the national stage. Malcolm Christie especially got onto the national stage showing off his three-point shooting prowess and potential. He had the goggles on because I think he got poked in the eye either at the Michigan State game or the Cleveland State game, but he was rocking goggles and he was lights out after struggling for three-point shooting kind of earlier in that season. And Oakland would defeat Loyola Chicago in the opening round of the Diamondback Classic, where that was at the time the biggest non-conference win in the Horizon League. Before that, it was Wright State's win over Princeton, but Oakland taking Loyola Chicago down in a last-second absolute thriller. Isaiah Jones under the basket got the one-point win. Overtime would then follow against Oregon State, did not go the Golden Grizzlies' way, and overtime would then again follow in their battle against the hosting Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Disappointing overtime performances were had that led to Oakland going 1 of 3, but still making a big name for themselves on the national stage. And let's not forget that the national stage did not quite have the curtains closed right after the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. Thank you for my correction. But they also played against number 23 at the time, Arkansas State. The rematch of Campy and Calipari. That was a huge game. Unfortunately, it just happened to come at the same time as the Lions against the 49ers and, later in the season, the NFL. So I got to kind of split my eyes as far as which one I was viewing. But that one was about what you would expect from Horizon League versus SEC. 92-62 to be specific, but it was still huge for the program. They had, when you look at the schedule, they had 4 out of 5 games in a row all on ESPN2. That's what winning in the tournament does. It gets you national spotlight like that. Number 20, Michigan State. Number 23, Arkansas, all on ESPN2. It was awesome to see. I mean, it wasn't much of a storyline as far as the season goes, but I mean, you saw El Mukeba be able to work against whoever, and especially that was the case when they, even earlier in the season, they played number 1 Kansas. I kind of skimmed over that part because that was a bit of a buzzsaw, but El Mukeba, in all the pretty much high-level games that they played, was able to show his prowess and show his power against some of the best big dudes in the country. But I wanted to specifically highlight that one just because even through the defeat of Kentucky, I'm a huge, I don't even say pretty big, I'm a huge John Calipari fan. And his move to Arkansas with his attitude and honestly his humor as far as, I got to get the team together, but we don't have a team. When he entered the program, he had 0 on his roster. So I became a huge fan of Calipari. So I especially was tuning into that one against Arkansas to see how the coach is going to, respond to his new situation. And turns out he responded amazingly. And I'm even a bigger fan of him now as to how he performed in the tournament with the team that was extremely injured and new and all kinds of stuff. I was just a huge fan of that. I wanted to make sure that gets mentioned as part of the storylines for the Golden Grizzlies season. They got to play in the SEC right after a trip to Hawaii, but you get what TV gets you. We then go into the Another storyline that I mentioned before, the front court of Mukeba and Baru was nuts. Those guys routinely 17 and 9, each between the two of them. 30 and 15 was pretty common in combination of the two, and they both were top 3 in the Horizon League in field goal percentage. They were up there in rebounds as well. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they proved that to be the case all season long. Nassim Mashor, as I mentioned before, the freshman guard, made a big name for himself as he went in back-to-back games in the middle of the season on the road at IUPUI, where he scored a career high, I believe 18, and then at home versus Detroit, he would get 20 points to make it 2 career highs in a row for the young man. And he ended up being a pretty critical piece to Oakland's, offense going down the stretch. And we're looking forward to seeing his progression into this season as well, because thank God I don't think he transferred. I think he's still here. We'll see what happens, at the time of this release. I mean, I can't imagine the transfers are still going on now, but still, you never quite know. Either way, happy to have him back for Nassim Mashor. There was also, in the middle of the season, Robert Morris, who ended up becoming the champions of the Horizon League, doing what Oakland did the year before, winning the regular season as well as the tournament. Pretty sure they won the regular season. But that game at RMU, now the one at home was pretty close as well. I don't think we didn't beat them in the arena. And forgive me, a lot of this is off the top of my head, general notes from the season. But in RMU in Moon Township, man, that game was down to the wire. It was close. Oakland was doing all they can, but what the commentators referred to as the octopus, their star player from Spain, and I can't remember his name, but I know his face. Alvaro Folgueras, found it. I pulled that out of my head. Alvaro Folgueras had a great night. Cam Woods as well, the guard spot for RMU. It got down to the last second where Oakland was playing defense, and a questionable foul was called at the last second that would end up giving free throws to RMU that eventually gave them the game. Immediately following after, Campy, whose hair is usually on fire, really was on fire, storming the court immediately, accompanied by assistant coaches and players as well, berating the referee for the call that cost them the game. It was such that it was against Horizon League policy, and Campy was suspended for 1 game in the middle of the season. Luckily, it was the Wednesday at-home game against Green Bay. Coach Smitty would be in the interim role. It was rough in the first half of that game against Green Bay, but eventually Oakland did get the scheduled win against Doug Gottlieb's Green Bay Phoenix. But that was a wild event. I had to go back and watch the footage. You could barely see it on the broadcast, but it's pretty much immediately after the buzzer sounds that Campy storms the court, stomping, hair on fire, yelling, screaming, to where the league said, sit down for this week. And it was weird for him. You can go back and see some of the post-game press conferences about it. I mean, even my coverage of it, it was weird to not have him in the building at the time, and he is hopeful that it doesn't happen again. We haven't seen that kind of side of Campy for a while anyway, so this is kind of for some older fans, nostalgia. And moving on to our next highlight, what I thought was one of the coolest moments of the season. I was also fortunate to call this game on WXOU as an alumni. Jason Woodridge versus Cleveland State on senior night, where he lit it up, especially from 3. He couldn't miss. I think he got up to 5 for 5 from 3. As that game went on, he would end up with 50% from the 3 and just giving it to Cleveland State, who was the pretty much number 1, number 2 team all the way through the regular season. Top defense in the league. But who knows the Vikings better than Jason Woodridge? Very few. And he was able to take advantage of that for a spectacular senior night, where it was him, DQ, and Malcolm Christie who were honored as such. So it was a pretty cool way to go out, no doubt. And finally, we get towards the end of the season, and another story was that Oakland was able to beat Milwaukee once again, back-to-back years, in the Horizon League tournament for the chance to go to Indianapolis, to unfortunately lose once again to Robert Morris. But that game against Milwaukee, now the opening round was against Green Bay, again, scheduled win, but against Milwaukee, I mean, it was in Milwaukee too. It was on the road. And for whatever reason, Oakland, I think in the past 5 matchups between them and the Panthers, I think they're 4 or 5. Like, for whatever reason, Oakland just seems to have Milwaukee's number. And it is a lot of fun to watch when it comes to the social media aspect of it. When you get certain Horizon League fans, they let themselves be known to you. And I get a lot of comments when it comes to them. Wright State Baseball also has a fiery fan base as well. But that one especially was a lot of fun to see. It just unfortunately couldn't get back to the championship game in Indy, as RMU was just really good that season. And they ended up facing Alabama in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And honestly, from what I remember, did fairly well given it was Alabama. And I know football's their trademark, but basketball has been really good for them so far. And to see them pretty much fight all they could, I remember Marion Dickerson, their kind of second or third best player on that RMU team. He gave it all he could, man. And it was swell to see from the Horizon League standpoint. So that does wrap up the milestones and moments of the season for the Golden Grizzlies in the 24-25 season. Now, to wrap things up here, let's get to the strengths and weaknesses of last year's team, to where we will then explore in the next episode how they either improved or got worse in some of these categories. So the biggest one was that Oakland was really bad on offense last season. They were void of any three-point shooting, despite flashes from DQ and from Christie and from Woodrich. It was not consistent at all enough to where that was a big point of their offense, where they were last place in the Horizon League in three-point shooting. And they were also near last, I think, either with them in Detroit and Green Bay, last in scoring overall. Now, the defense was able to make up for it and keep them in close games. They finished around second and third in the Horizon League in points allowed per game. And that's what allowed them to finish, I believe they were the 6th seed in the Horizon League going into the tournament. So it was able to bring them to about average in the league. And you got to hope that these things get taken care of for this offseason, because as wonderful as the Campy zone is, it's like you got to score a little bit. Campy's more known for the scoring than the defense side of things. It's just lately the defense has been the better of the two sides of the ball. So that's something I'm really looking to get cleaned up as well. Now, I don't need to see, Jack Golke and Blake Lampman back for, nuclear three-point shooting. But, I mean, something consistent. I don't think Oakland cracked 30% by the end of the season on average from deep. Like, you got to get over 30%. And last year you had the talent to do it. And that's just what was so shocking about it, is that we were able, in theory, to do the three-point shooting. But it just wasn't there, but we were firing them off as if they were, just hoping it would come back, and it really never did. And it was disappointing to see. Now, what I also want to see return, and we seem to be, from all scouts and from what I'm hearing, is a return of a really strong front court. We got Baru back once again, who, by the way, Baru, I should have mentioned him in the storyline. Baru, his expanded role in this team as one of the 3 veterans coming back, he was huge this season. He was remarkable to watch. He was able to find the dunks and able to find the big, high flying blocks. He was, and at times, the spectacular player that I've been really excited to see. And now into his 3rd season with the Golden Grizzlies, I am even more ecstatic to see his role either grow or become more refined as a dominant force, in the front court in the Horizon League. He will be paired up with one of the, biggest name, highest profile, highest recruited talents from the transfer portal, in Isaac Garrett. We'll talk about him more in next episode, but we may see a return of a fantastic front court for the Golden Grizzlies. Let's just hope it's accompanied by enough shooting to get Oakland higher than last year's 6th seed in the Horizon League standings. So that'll wrap up the setting of the stage for the Golden Grizzlies and the GioMoShow's coverage of Oakland basketball this season. I appreciate you guys sticking around a whole off season of drought. Sure doesn't help things, but I'm glad you guys stuck around for it. Schedule's going to get a little bit busy for this fall and winter. You can keep up to date with that kind of stuff on my social media. You can follow at Moceri_Giovanni for me personally, and at the GioMoShow on Instagram to keep up with the show. And you can find me on Twitter at GioMoSherry, WXOU, a tag of which I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep for a little bit. WXOU is my history. But you can keep up to date with my reactions and feelings with regards to Oakland, as well as whatever other sports comes to mind. I'm not limited. I see other sports. You may even see me, tweeting about Wayne State and their hosting of the high school kickoff that they have every year down there in Detroit. Who knows, but it's a great follow and is worthy of such a button press. So once again, this has been Giovanni Moceri for the return of the GioMoShow, and we'll see you next week as we take a look ahead to this season of Golden Grizzlies basketball.